where your possible earnings could have been a potential picture, right? If we would have done a number of deals 10 years ago, we would have, if we did just 10 properties a year at a potential profit of $20,000 per year or per deal, we would have made $2 million in profit over the course of the last decade. If you take that and say, if we would have done 10 deals a year over the last 5 years at a $20,000 profit, we would have made $1 million in profit over the last 5 years. If we would have done it 3 years ago, we'd have a $600K profit. And if we did it just 1 year ago, right now we'd be sitting at a $20,000 profit. No matter when you start, you can make money in real estate. Now it's funny because when I met my wife, I was living down in Cape Coral, Florida. I had moved down there in 99, 2000, and I was traveling around the country doing real estate investment seminars. And I was in Salt Lake City where I was introduced to my now wife, this beautiful blonde that captured my attention. And we dated for 2 years, and then we got married in August of 2002. 19 years this August, by the way. She is a saint putting up with me that long. And my brother-in-law, so I moved to Salt Lake City in 2002, or in 2000, then we got married in 2. And my brother-in-law came to me, he says, Lee, I'd really like to invest in real estate. I said, okay, well, let's get you a few houses. And he only ended up doing two. And at the reunion I was at this weekend, he came to me, he says, hey Lee, my son now who's 15 wants to start investing in real estate. I said, well, that's cool. So I said, go to fundingtour.com. You can learn all about it. Come to one of our weekend shows. So he's probably going to do that. And then I asked my brother-in-law, I said, so whatever happened with that one house you did? He said, well, I ended up selling it. He says, I kept it as a rental for about 3 years and then I sold it. And I said, and how much did you make over that 3-year period of time? Do you remember? He said, well, when I sold it, I ended up making about $105,000. Now, my brother-in-law is not a wealthy man. He probably makes $40,000 or $50,000 a year, which is a great living, but it's certainly not wealthy. And he did that one deal and he made $110,000 over a 3-year period. I said, do you remember how much you put down on that deal? He said, Lee, it was the craziest thing because when I came to see you, you told me that all I needed was $500 and I thought you were crazy. He said, but I put up the $500 and then you arranged for the funding for the acquisition and the rehab and everything. He said, and I really only ever came out of pocket $500. I made $110,000 on that deal. And I said, well, if you could go back and do anything differently, what would you do? And he said, I would have bought more. And guys, I know that the real estate market is crazy hot and it's out of control right now, but that is always going to be the sentiment, okay? I wish I would have bought more. Now, as you guys know, I'm an active real estate investor. We've already flipped almost 130 houses this year. We're on track to hit about 150 to 200 houses this year. So we flip a lot of real estate. And to flip each house, I'm probably looking at 10 to 20 deals to get that one. So I'm looking at 800 to 1,000 debt stacks and titles. And it's always fascinating to me when I go into a debt stack and I see what somebody paid for this very house just 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I was looking at a house today, right next to one. Right now we have a master rehabber class going on here. So I've got a great group of people here. And we are out at our subject property that we're going to be working on and fixing up together this week. And we picked up this house for $140,000. We're going to put about $30,000 into it, and when we sell it, we'll sell it for about $240,000. So as we're there with the group, I see another house just down the street, run down. It's got a sheriff eviction notice on the window. And so I go to my SendFuse application, and I find out that the people who own it bought it in 1993, and they picked it up for $15,000 in 1993. Now, we all know 1993 is almost now 30 years ago, but 30 years ago that house was 15 grand, and today that house will sell for around 240 grand. Okay. Now, if you fast forward 30 years from right now, people are going to be looking at a debt stack on the house we bought, and they're going to be going, oh my goodness, can you believe that 30 years ago they bought that house for 140, and now that house is worth 480, 500, 600? Guys, that's what's coming. I mean, you can drive around town and see all of the billboards showing McDonald's and Walmart hiring at $15 an hour starting wage. That's $30,000 a year in income. Now, some of you that have been around for a period of time, you got your first job out of college with a 4-year degree and you weren't making $30,000 a year. but the average cost of a house was 40, 50, 60 grand. And you can go back in history as far as you want, and you will see that it always goes up. Just watch what's happening with minimum wage, and housing always follows. So the key here is, if you haven't been buying real estate, you need to start buying real estate. And if you have stopped buying real estate because you think the market is crazy out of control and you're not sure where it's going to go, you need to be buying real estate. Okay, bottom line, period, end of statement. Now, yes, the market is crazy hot, crazy out of control. Now, we are seeing it adjust. Okay, we are seeing days on market elongating. We're seeing more and more reduction in price occurring. So the market is beginning to slow. It's cooling off. And as those days on market elongate and we see more and more of those price reductions, we see more and more desperate sellers who need to sell. Now, add to that the lifting of the foreclosure and the eviction moratorium, and that is another 8% of housing stock, usually at the lower price points, that is going to be going to short sale via notice of default on Liz pendants or NDF in non-judicial foreclosure markets. That inventory is going to start hitting the MLS as short sales. Those prices, those sales are going to start hitting MLS as comps, supportive comps to a neighborhood, which are going to devalue future coming appraisals. It's about to get really interesting. Now, I am not anticipating or predicting another 2008 because banks are still underwriting quality buyers to purchase these properties, okay? But the people that are buying them, a lot of investors buying houses now, there's a lot of free cash roaming around, and it is just looking for investments. So you can right now get a mortgage pretty easily from any lender at pretty decent rates, 2.85 to 3.5, if you're willing to plunk down 30%. So a lot of people are tapping into 401ks, self-directed IRAs, using banks as leverage, putting down the 30% out of these investment vehicles. HSAs now can be used to buy real estate. All of these components are creating this huge buzz of investor-owned and purchased real estate. That trend will continue. You guys, one, need to engage and get involved and start buying more of it. But two, you need to be going into the areas where you can get it for better prices. Because if you're trying to compete on the MLS, that's where all of your Zillow house buyers and all of these other groups, that's where they're predominantly going to get their inventory. So if you don't have some backdoor strategy into some of these deals, or if you are not investing the time or the energy to go direct to seller from a marketing strategy, you're getting killed in the market. And you're shaking your head. He's right, because you've written 9 offers and they've all been rejected because some schmuck's willing to pay significantly more than you are. Well, that simply means that you're going after inventory that is readily available. The way that you win here is you go after inventory that most people don't even know about, okay?